The sky was gray, and the wind was cold. A small crowd stood around a tiny white coffin deep in the green countryside. No music played, only the sound of birds and the quiet sniffles of people crying. Anna stood close to the grave. She was just 7 years old. Her black dress looked too big for her thin frame. She held a small flower in her hand, one she had picked herself that morning. Her eyes were wide, staring at the coffin. She hadn't cried at all. Beside her stood her parents, their faces pale and tired. Her mother, Sarah, held her tightly, but Anna didn't move. The priest was finishing his prayer. The coffin, which held her older brother, Tommy, was about to be lowered into the ground. Tommy was only 10. People whispered about the accident. A fall from the old treehouse, one said. No one saw it happen, said another. But everyone agreed on one thing. Tommy had died that evening. They had found him lying still under the tree. Anna was the only one with him. As the priest said the final words, Anna suddenly stepped forward. Everyone watched her, expecting a goodbye, but instead she placed her small hand on the white coffin and leaned close. Her lips moved. The words were quiet, but clear. He's not inside. A gasp went through the crowd. The priest stopped mid-sentence. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth. Her father bent down quickly. "Anna, what did you say?" he asked gently. Anna looked up at him, her face blank. "He's not inside," she repeated. "That's not Tommy." Everyone froze. One of the aunts began to cry harder. The priest tried to speak, but no one was listening. Anna's mother took her by the shoulders and knelt in front of her. "Sweetheart, what do you mean?" Her voice trembled. Anna's eyes filled with something strange. Not fear, not sadness. Something deeper. "He's calling me," she whispered. "From far away. He's not in there." The priest quickly stepped, and placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Grief does strange things to children," he said softly. "Let her rest. It's the shock." But Sarah looked unsure. She held Anna close as they watched the coffin go into the ground. Later that night, in the small house they had rented near the countryside cemetery, Sarah sat by the fire, holding a photo of Tommy. Anna sat silently on the couch. She had not eaten dinner. She hadn't asked for her favorite bedtime story. She just sat and stared at the fireplace. Sarah turned to her husband, Mark. "She was there, Mark. When it happened, she saw it." "I know," Mark replied, "but she won't talk about it. She says he's calling her. It's just her way of saying she misses him." Sarah looked back at Anna. "No, it's something else. Something is not right." Flashback, just days ago. The treehouse stood behind the family's home. It was old but strong. Tommy and Anna loved playing there every day. On that afternoon, Sarah had called them in for lunch. Only Anna came inside. "Where's Tommy?" she had asked. Anna looked confused. "He's still up there." When Mark went out to call him, he found Tommy on the ground, not moving. His head was bleeding. They said it was an accident, that he must have slipped, but Anna never explained what happened. Back to the present. That night, as the house grew dark and quiet, Sarah checked on Anna. She found her sitting up in bed, staring out the window. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Anna didn't answer. "Do you want to sleep with Mommy tonight?" Anna turned her head slowly. "He's cold, Mommy," she said. "He keeps saying it. He's cold." Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her heart pounding. "He says it's dark." "Where he is," Anna whispered. "He's alone." Sarah wrapped her arms around her daughter tightly. "It's just a bad dream, baby." But Anna didn't blink. She kept staring out the window. "He's not dreaming," she said. "He's awake, and he wants me to find him." The next morning, Sarah woke early. She hadn't slept much. Her husband, Mark, was still snoring lightly beside her, but her eyes were wide open. All night her mind kept replaying Anna's strange words. "He's not in there. He's cold. He's calling me." At first she thought it was just the trauma speaking, but deep inside something didn't feel right. Anna had never lied about anything, and last night she hadn't sounded confused. She sounded sure. Sarah stepped into the hallway and quietly pushed open Anna's bedroom door. The bed was empty. Her heart jumped. "Anna!" she called softly. No answer. She rushed to the window. The curtains were open. The small window was unlocked and the screen had been pushed out. Panic filled her chest. She ran to wake Mark. 10 minutes later, they were both outside, calling Anna's name through the morning mist. The farmhouse they had rented for the funeral was surrounded by woods. The cemetery was just a few minutes' walk away. And that's exactly where Sarah feared Anna had gone. She said he was calling her. Sarah gasped, grabbing her coat. What if she went to the grave? Mark nodded grimly. Let's go. The sun was barely rising as they reached the cemetery. It was empty and quiet, the grass still wet with dew. Then Sarah spotted her. Anna was kneeling beside the small white grave, her fingers running over the fresh soil. Sarah ran to her and dropped to her knees. Anna, why did you leave the house? Like that? Anna didn't answer. Mark knelt beside them. What are you doing out here, honey? Anna looked up at her parents, her face pale but calm. He's not here, she said again. I already told you. Sarah reached for her hand. Sweetheart, this is his grave. We saw him. You saw him. Anna shook her head. That boy wasn't Tommy. Mark frowned. What are you talking about? He was wearing Tommy's clothes, Anna whispered. But that wasn't him. His eyes were wrong. Sarah felt a cold chill run down her spine. Later that day, the family went home, but things didn't go back to normal. That night, strange things began to happen. First, the lights in Anna's room started flickering. Then, Sarah found Tommy's favorite toy car, one they had buried with him, sitting in the hallway. She picked it up with shaking hands. This isn't possible, she said. The next day, Anna refused to eat. She just stared out the window and said, He's not far now. He's getting closer. Mark tried to calm Sarah down. She's grieving. Kids her age don't understand. Death. Maybe she's just making up stories. Sarah bit her lip. Then how do you explain the toy car? Mark didn't have an answer. That night, Sarah went through old photo albums. She found a picture of Tommy, just a week before the accident, happy, smiling with a little scar above his right eyebrow. He had that scar since he was a baby. Then she remembered something. At the funeral. She hadn't seen it. She ran to her bag and pulled out the printed photo the funeral director had given them, the one they took before the coffin was closed. She zoomed in. No scar. Her hand started to shake. Meanwhile, in her room, Anna sat on the floor drawing. She wasn't using her usual crayons. She had found a black marker and was scribbling furiously on white paper. She had drawn a forest, a deep forest, with a dark hole in the middle. Beside the hole stood a small figure just like Tommy, and beside him, something tall, shadowy, faceless. Anna looked at her drawing and whispered, He's not alone anymore. The next morning, Sarah showed the photo to Mark. No scar, she said, pointing. Mark rubbed his face. Could they have covered with makeup? No, that scar was deep. You don't just erase it. Sarah's voice cracked. Mark, what if the boy we buried wasn't Tommy? Mark stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Sarah, what are you saying? I think Anna's right. That night Anna didn't sleep. She sat by her window and watched the forest behind the farmhouse. Then, just before midnight, she whispered, Again, he's almost here. The farmhouse had never felt so quiet. Mark checked every door and window before bed. Sarah triple-locked the front door. Anna had drawn a strange new picture of the coffin from the funeral with a crack down the middle. Sarah hid the drawing before Mark could see it. She didn't want to believe it. But she was beginning to feel it too. Something wasn't right. That night, rain hit the windows like soft whispers. At midnight, Anna sat up in bed, eyes wide open. There was a sound. Not from outside, from inside the walls. Scrrk. Tap. Tap. Doi tap. Anna slowly turned her head toward the corner of her room. Her eyes locked on the wall behind her closet. Then she heard it. Soft, cold, and familiar. Anna. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She whispered back, Tommy? No answer, but she smiled. He's almost here, she said to herself. But he's not the same. Down the hallway, Sarah sat in the kitchen, unable to sleep. She had Tommy's photo in front of her. 2 copies. One from the day he died, one from a few weeks before. The scar. It was real. She remembered how he'd fallen off the porch steps when he was 3. Blood everywhere. 5 stitches. Gone in the funeral photo, and now the toy car had moved again, this time to her pillow. She hadn't told Mark. He was already shaken, trying to be strong. But she could see the fear behind his eyes. Suddenly, a thud echoed through the house. She jumped to her feet. "Anna!" She rushed down the hallway, heart racing. Anna's door was open. Inside, Anna was standing in front of the closet, completely still. "Anna, what was that sound?" Anna turned slowly. "He's trying to come through." Sarah froze. "What do you mean?" Anna pointed at the closet wall. "That's not a wall. That's where he's hiding." Sarah swallowed hard. "Anna, baby, there's no one there. You're having bad dreams." Anna smiled like she knew something Sarah didn't. "I'm not scared," she said. "He told me everything." The next morning, Mark said he was going back to the funeral home. "I want to see the body report," he said, firmly. "I need to know if that was really our son." Sarah nodded. "Be careful." Anna sat on the porch swing, drawing again. This time she was drawing their farmhouse. But the windows were blacked out. A figure stood in every one. When Sarah asked her who they were, Anna just said, "They're coming to help him." Sarah tried not to cry. At the funeral home, Mark asked for the embalming and preparation report. The staff hesitated but gave him a short printed file. He scanned through it quickly, until one note made his hands tremble. Scar on upper right. Brow, not present. He showed it to the staff. "This should say the scar is there." The director looked confused. "We didn't notice any scar, sir. The body didn't have one." Mark stared at the man. "Then who did we bury?" The director didn't answer. Back home, the lights began to flicker again. Sarah was in the hallway when she heard it too. This time loud and clear, a voice. Inside the walls. Not just any voice. "Mom." Her knees buckled. She pressed her ear to the wall, whispering, "Tommy?" No reply. But on the other side of the wall, something scratched back. Scratch, scratch, tap. Then silence. That night, the family ate dinner in silence. Anna didn't touch her food. She stared at her plate. Then she looked up and said calmly, "You need to dig up the grave." Mark dropped his fork. Sarah gasped. "Anna, no, you buried the wrong boy," she said, her voice eerily steady. "If you leave him down there, the real Tommy will never come home." Silence filled the room like smoke. Later in the bedroom, Mark whispered to Sarah, "She's not making this up." Sarah nodded. "I believe her. And you saw the report." He rubbed his face. "I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe we do have to open the grave." Sarah looked at him with teary eyes. "Then we better do it soon, before whatever's behind that wall comes out." Outside, a sudden knock hit the window. They turned quickly. No one was there. But on the glass were small, wet handprints. Next morning, a thick fog covered the fields like a white curtain. The sky was gray. The air was heavy. It felt like the earth itself was holding its breath. Mark stood at the back of the house holding his phone, staring at the cemetery's number. Sarah stepped beside him, her voice low. "Are we really doing this?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "If we don't, I'll never sleep again." Anna, sitting on the swing, whispered, "You'll find something, but not him." At noon, Mark met the cemetery caretaker. They stood in front of the small grave. The headstone read, "Thomas James Miller, beloved son. Forever in our hearts." Mark's hand trembled as he signed the paper. "I want to witness it," he said. The caretaker hesitated but nodded. "It's your right." Within minutes, too, workers began digging. With every scoop of earth, Mark felt his chest tighten. Sarah stayed behind, unable to watch. But Anna stood silently behind the trees, watching everything. When the coffin was pulled up, it looked untouched. Clean. Dry. Perfectly sealed. The caretaker paused. "Are you sure, sir?" "Once opened." "Do it," Mark said sharply. They opened the lid. Mark's breath caught in his throat. Inside the coffin was a boy, but not Tommy. No scar. Different hairline. Slightly taller. Mark staggered back. "Oh my God!" The caretaker was stunned. "Are you saying this isn't your son?" Mark could barely speak. "This is not my child." Anna stepped forward then, her voice soft but clear. "I told you. He's not there." Later that evening, the police came. They took statements, photos, and fingerprints. "It might be a switch," the officer said. "Maybe a hospital or morgue mistake." But Mark knew better. "This wasn't a mix-up," he whispered to Sarah. "Someone put a stranger in our son's grave." Anna stood nearby, drawing again. This time she drew the grave, but the coffin was open and black smoke was coming out. That night, Anna refused to sleep in her room. "He's too loud now," she said. "He's trying to speak with both voices." Sarah asked, "What voices?" Anna looked up slowly. "His and the one that's inside him." Sarah felt her stomach twist. "Anna, is Tommy alive?" Anna nodded once. "Yes, but something found him before we did." Meanwhile, Mark got a call from the funeral home. "Mr. Miller, we checked our logs. The body you buried was sent from a private lab, not a hospital." Mark frowned. "What lab?" "We're trying to find out. The tag on the body was removed." "That's not standard." Mark hung up, hands shaking. He opened his laptop and searched for the funeral records. One file caught his eye, a delivery slip. One line stood out. Origin, Black Ridge Genetics Facility. He'd never heard of it. But next, to the name, was a strange symbol. It looked exactly like the tattoo on Ellie's wrist. He printed it out and ran to Sarah. "Look at this," he said. Her eyes widened. "That's the same symbol from Anna's drawing." Anna looked over at them. They wanted to keep him, but he came back anyway. That night, Sarah had a dream. She was standing in a cold white hallway. The lights above her buzzed. At the end of the hall stood a steel door. A voice behind it whispered, "You buried the body, but not the truth." She woke up screaming. Mark held her. "It's getting worse. We need answers," she cried. "Before something else happens." From the hallway, Anna called softly, "It's too late for answers now. He's almost here." They rushed to her. The walls were vibrating. A low hum, like a growl, filled the house. Anna pointed to her closet. "He's coming through." The next morning, the family packed some bags. "We're staying at a hotel tonight," Mark said, "just to get away." But as they opened the door, there it was, a small burnt toy car, the one buried with Tommy, sitting on the doormat, blackened, melted, but still whole. The toy car sat quietly on the doormat, melted, blackened, unmistakable. It was the one that had been buried with Tommy. Sarah picked it up with shaking hands. "This was in the coffin. I put it there myself." Mark stared at it. "So how is it here now?" No one spoke. Even Anna looked frightened. "He left it," she whispered, "to say he's not far." That night, Mark couldn't sleep. He sat at the edge of the bed, holding the paper that showed the name of the place, Black Ridge Genetics Facility. He searched online. Nothing. No website, no phone number, no official record. He searched deeper into online forums, news archives, and hidden sites. Finally, he found one old article, barely readable. Black Ridge shut down after a series of unlicensed experiments. Allegations of illegal cloning and memory alteration. Case sealed. No charges filed. Mark leaned back, stunned. Cloning, memory. This wasn't just a lab. It was something darker. He printed the address and decided to go the next morning at breakfast. Anna was quiet. She didn't touch her food. When Sarah asked why, she replied, "Because I saw Tommy last night." Mark froze. "You... what?" Anna nodded. "He was outside my window, but he didn't come close." Sarah gripped the table. "Are you sure it was him?" Anna hesitated. "He looked like Tommy, but his eyes were different, like they had too many people inside." Mark didn't tell Sarah, but he drove to the address he'd found. It led him miles outside the city, to a broken-down industrial area. The Black Ridge facility was hidden behind tall dead trees and rusted gates. A sign hung half-broken. Authorized. Personnel only. The building looked abandoned. Windows shattered, paint peeling. But something felt wrong. It wasn't just old. It felt watched. He walked inside, flashlight in hand. Dust hung in the air like smoke. Old machines, broken computers, empty chairs, but some things didn't look old. Footprints in the dust, a fresh coffee cup half full, and on the wall, a photo. His son, Tommy, standing beside a man in a lab coat, and next to Tommy was another child. Identical. Same face, same clothes, same expression, but their eyes. Only one of them looked scared. The other looked empty. Mark took the photo and ran back to the car. As he drove home, his thoughts were spinning. Did they clone my son? Which one did we bury? Which one is out there now? His phone rang. Sarah's voice was shaking. Mark, Anna's gone. What? She went out the back door. She left a note. Mark pulled over, heart pounding. The note was short. I have to go to him. He's calling me from the place with silver walls, Mark whispered. The lab, she's going back there. Meanwhile, Anna was already walking through the woods, barefoot, calm, focused. She followed something no one else could hear. A voice, a song, a call only she could feel. As she approached the old lab, she didn't hesitate. The doors opened by themselves, and inside she heard it again, a whisper, a breath. Anna. Mark arrived minutes later. He found Anna's shoes at the entrance. He ran inside, shouting, Anna! The halls were darker now, wetter, dripping, and on the walls, new symbols, painted in red, and then he saw her. Anna stood in front of a glass room. Inside was Tommy, alive, awake, but covered in wires. His eyes were wide with terror. Daddy! Tommy cried. Mark ran forward, but Anna blocked him. No, she said. That's not him. Mark looked at the boy again. This time, he noticed the scars, the confusion, the fear. But something felt real, felt like his son. And then, a second voice echoed from behind them. I'm the real one. Mark turned. Another Tommy, standing at tea. Both looked exactly the same hair, same face, same small scar above the eyebrow. But their eyes, only one pair held warmth. The other, cold, almost empty. Daddy, the Tommy in the glass whispered. Please. Don't trust him, said the Tommy behind Mark. He's confused, he's not real. Mark's throat tightened. Which one are you? The smiling boy tilted his head. I'm your son. I remember everything. My red bike, the green blanket I cried into, the fireflies in Grandma's yard. Mark's eyes welled up. Those were real memories, but then the boy in the glass spoke. I remember those too, but I also remember the pain. The doctors, being woken up again and again. They told me I wasn't allowed to forget. Mark felt like the floor was falling. Two boys, two versions, both remembering his son's life. Which one was truly Tommy? Anna stepped forward slowly. Her little face looked confused, like a storm inside her mind. They both feel like my brother, she whispered. But only one of them cried for me. Mark looked at her. Which one? Anna pointed to the boy in the glass room. That one. He called my name in the dreams. Suddenly, alarms blared through the lab. Red lights flashed. Doors slammed shut. Behind them, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Men in black uniforms appeared. No names, no words, just needles, restraints. Mark shielded Anna. Stay behind me. The glass door hissed open. The Tommy inside tried to crawl out, but one of the men grabbed him by the arm. The other boy, calm Tommy, stepped forward. It's okay, he said to the guards. That one's unstable. He needs to go back in. The guard nodded, and that's when Mark understood. This boy had control. Power. He wasn't scared of the men. He was with them. Mark lunged. He knocked one guard down, grabbing Anna's hand and pulling her toward the glass room. "Run!" he shouted. Anna didn't hesitate. The Tommy inside reached out. Mark pulled him free. The real boy clung to his father's arm, sobbing. The calm Tommy didn't chase. He just stood and watched. "You're making a mistake," he said. "You're choosing the weaker version." Mark growled. "I'm choosing my son." They ran down the hall, alarms wailing louder now. Anna led the way. She seemed to know the building somehow, like something was guiding her. Finally, they reached a broken door with light behind it. The exit. Freedom. But just before they escaped, Mark turned back one last time. The other boy, the clone, stood in the hallway still, expressionless. But a single tear ran down his cheek. He whispered, "I wanted to be him so badly." Then the door closed. Back at home, Sarah ran to the door. She hugged Anna tight, her eyes full of relief. But when she saw Tommy, really saw him, she dropped to her knees. "Tommy? Is it really you?" The boy nodded, tears running down his cheeks. "I don't know how to be normal again," he whispered. Sarah held him close. "You don't have to. We'll help you." That night, as everyone tried to rest, Mark sat alone, in the kitchen. He stared at the photo he took from the lab, the one with two Tommies, one now sleeping upstairs, the other still inside that place. Was it over? Was he safe? Or was the other one still out there, waiting, watching? Anna came downstairs quietly and sat beside him. She looked at the photo too. Then she said something that chilled him to the bone. "He's not angry," she said. "Not yet. But he will be." Mark looked at her. "Why?" Anna touched the photo. Her small finger pointed at the second boy. "Because he doesn't have a name and no one to love him." 1 week had passed. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Tommy, the real Tommy, was healing slowly. He had nightmares, but he was home. Anna stayed by his side, never letting go of his hand. Mark tried to act normal, but his eyes always drifted to the windows, or the door, or the dark corners of the yard. He knew something wasn't finished. He could feel it. One evening, as rain tapped gently on the windows, a package arrived. No name, no address, just left on the front steps. Mark opened it slowly, carefully. Inside was a photo. It showed the other boy, the clone, standing in front of a house, Mark's old childhood home. Behind the photo, a note was folded. 5 words. "He doesn't deserve your name." Mark's hands trembled. The clone wasn't gone. He had left the lab, and now he was taking pieces of Tommy's life. But why? Why not move on? Why come back? Later that night, Anna woke up screaming. Tommy rushed to her room, holding her tightly. She looked into his eyes, then whispered, "He talked to me again." In the dream. Mark walked in, heart pounding. "What did he say?" Anna's voice shook. "He said, he's going to live our life better than Tommy ever could." Tommy's face went pale. "He's not just copying me," he whispered. "He's trying to replace me." The next day, Mark drove to the old house from the photo. It had been sold years ago. Now it looked cleaner, freshly painted. The mailbox read, Thomas R. Miller. Mark's heart sank. That was Tommy's full name. He knocked on the door. No. Answer. He peeked through the window. Inside, everything looked familiar. The furniture, the photos, even a drawing on the fridge. Tommy's drawing from years ago. The clone had rebuilt their past. He had stolen it. Back at home, Sarah called Mark. "Something's wrong," she said. "Tommy's gone. He left a note." Mark's stomach dropped. He raced home, heart pounding. The note on Tommy's bed read, "If I don't stop him, I'll lose myself forever. He took my name, my face, and now he wants my soul. I have to end this." Mark and Sarah searched everywhere. So did the police. No trace. Until a message appeared on Mark's phone. It was a video. Tommy stood in a forest, face bruised, shirt torn, Behind him, the clone, smiling. He came to me, the clone said calmly. He said I could have his life, if I let them. Go, Mark screamed. No! The screen cut to black. Hours later, Anna pointed to a map. There, she said. That's where he took Tommy. He showed me in my dream. Mark didn't ask how she knew. He believed her. They reached the forest at dawn. A small cabin stood near the lake, silent, still. Mark pushed the door open. Inside, both boys sat across from each other. Tommy was hurt, but alive. The clone looked. Up, he was crying. I didn't want to hurt anyone, he whispered. I didn't want to be forgotten. Mark stepped closer. Then why take his name? The clone looked at Tommy. I thought if I lived as him, maybe I'd finally feel real. Tommy stood. Even weak, he looked strong now. You are real, he said. But not because you're me. He took off the bracelet from his wrist. It had his name. Tommy, he handed it to the clone. You need your own name. The clone looked confused. Then, he smiled, a real, broken, grateful smile. They brought him home, not as Tommy, but as someone new. He chose the name Eli, and for the first time, he stopped pretending to be someone else. In the weeks that followed, Eli stayed at a special care center. Doctors helped him. So did Mark and Sarah. Anna visited often, bringing him drawings. Tommy returned to school. He didn't talk much about what happened. But at night, when the world was quiet, he would whisper to Anna, I saw what I could have become if I didn't have love. And Anna would whisper back, he has love now too. Final scene, 1 year later. The family stands at the park. Tommy and Eli sit side by side, laughing. 2 boys, 2 pasts, 1 family. Mark watches them and smiles. He had once saved a girl in an alley, then a child in a car. Now he had saved something bigger, a name, a soul, a future.